by Chuck Liddell.
For most of his early career was so tough that he would literally invite guys to punch him. He didn't give a f***. Once the firefight started happening, he would rely on his chin because his chin was granite. Guys would catch him and he'd just fucking boom.
If someone asks you to compile a list of OGs of mixed martial arts, Chuck the Iceman Liddell's name will be in the upper echelon any day of the week. He was a god among men back in the day, with a thunderous amount of knockout power in his right hand, and for that particular reason, Liddell is admired not only by most hardcore MMA fans, but by many popular fighters, including the biggest star in combat sports, Conor McGregor. Welcome to Hype Sport, where today we'll be looking at the biggest knockouts and moments of Chuck Liddell's career. Let us know your thoughts on whether or not Chuck Liddell is the greatest knockout artist of all time. And if you like this video, please subscribe to our channel so we can keep bringing you the stories that you love. While his victories inside the UFC Octagon speak for themselves, Liddell was a larger-than-life MMA fighter in his heyday, and he is widely credited for putting mixed martial arts and the UFC on the map. Liddell, who started his journey from the UFC in 1998, may well be one of the top 3, if not the single greatest knockout artist in mixed martial arts history. In his MMA debut at UFC 17 in 1998, Liddell defeated Noé Hernandez by unanimous decision. In his second fight, he scored another decision victory after half an hour of battle with Jose Landajons at International Vale Tudo Championship 6. In his third fight, Liddell was choked out in 12 minutes by Jeremy Horn. Although Liddell had a slow start to his MMA career, he took off after losing his first MMA fight, piling up an incredible 10-fight winning streak by knocking people out like it was child's play. His first major win came against former UFC heavyweight champion Kevin Randleman at UFC 31. Liddell was relatively new to MMA at that time, and was considered nothing more than a sparring partner for the then lightweight champion Tito Ortiz. When Randleman moved down to light heavyweight, he was expected to dethrone Ortiz, and Liddell was considered a stepping stone to that end. The Iceman took the air out of that argument by flattening the UFC legend with a perfectly timed counterpunch as Randleman tried to press him against the cage to secure takedowns. The fight was a coming out of sorts for Liddell, who emerged out of Ortiz's shadow and stamped his authority as a legitimate contender in the division. 3 wins later, Liddell faced another MMA powerhouse in Vitor Bellfort. The fight was expected to be an absolute barn burner since both fighters were known for their knockout power. Fans were expecting an early knockout either way, but instead, they were treated to 3 rounds of non-stop violence as Liddell and Bellfort connected with huge shots. The American left a bigger impression on the judges late in the night when he dropped Bellfort with a big counterpunch and then swarmed, winning the fight by unanimous decision. In his next fight, Liddell faced another Brazilian, Renato Sobral. It was a classic striker versus grappler contest, with Sobral spending much of the first minute of their fight shooting for double legs, but to no avail. On the feet, it was a complete mismatch. Liddell was a better striker by some distance, and he troubled Sobral every time he landed a strike. A minute into their fight, Liddell disguised a perfectly timed head kick after a flurry of big punches, and Sobral was down and out. In his next 3 fights, Liddell lost twice, most notably to Randy Couture in their interim light heavyweight title fight. After an unsuccessful attempt at capturing a UFC title, Liddell was tasked with spreading the UFC gospel around the world by representing the promotion in the Pride middleweight tournament. Liddell fought Alistair Overeem in the quarterfinals. For the first 3 minutes, the UFC rep had trouble keeping up with the kickboxing phenom, but seconds into the 4th minute, he connected with a big right hand that badly stunned Overeem. Liddell landed a few more blows and separated his opponent from his consciousness. In the semifinal, however, Liddell was thoroughly dominated by Quentin Rampage Jackson. Liddell's loss to Rampage Jackson was followed by arguably one of the greatest fights in UFC light heavyweight history. At UFC 47, Liddell fought his former teammate Tito Ortiz, kickstarting one of the greatest rivalries in mixed martial arts history. The storyline couldn't have been better. Liddell was no longer a mere sidekick, but a serious threat in the division. It was a fight that fans have waited long to see. The build-up to their clash was intense.
There's never any agreement not to fight. I feel very betrayed because all of a sudden I'm getting pushed in a corner because I never wanted to fight him. I would love to see him come after me.
But all the trash talking and innuendo took a back seat when the cage door closed at the Bay Events Arena in Las Vegas. The first round was a bit lackluster, but the fight took off in the second round when seconds into the 30-second mark, Liddell pinned Ortiz against the cage and let his hands go, dropping his bitter rival with a flurry of big shots and leaving him defenseless. The referee intervened and called a stop to the contest. For Liddell, the victory may not have been the most meaningful, but it was indeed the sweetest of his career. After defeating Ortiz, Liddell knocked out Vernon White to earn a light heavyweight title shot against Randy Couture. In their first fight, Couture defeated Liddell by TKO in the third round, with his wrestling being the difference on the night. In their rematch at UFC 52, Liddell was better prepared to counter his opponent's strengths. Right off the bat, Couture pressed Liddell, attempting haymakers to bait the challenger into putting his guard down and go for takedowns. Liddell knew his opponent's game plan really well. He fought at a distance and circled off while counterpunching every time Couture charged forward. The trend continued for nearly 2 minutes before Liddell landed a counter right hook on the button and knocked him out to become the UFC light heavyweight champion. In his first light heavyweight title defense, Liddell avenged his first career loss by beating Jeremy Horn so badly that he was forced to give up. In his second title defense, Liddell faced Randy Couture in a rubber match. Having already defeated Couture at UFC 52, Liddell was expected to win again in their trilogy at UFC 57, but nobody expected it to be a walk in the park. Liddell fought the same way he fought in their second fight, keeping a low and wide stance and countering while circling off. Couture failed to secure takedowns and was forced to march into the champion's wheelhouse, which was obviously never a good idea. A minute and a half into the first round, Liddell dropped Couture with a counter right hand once again and followed him with more punches as he hit the deck until the referee intervened. In his next title defense, Liddell dispatched Renato Sobral for the second time in his career before facing Tito Ortiz in a rematch at UFC 66. Although their rematch didn't have as much bitterness as the first fight, Ortiz's claim that he was still the champion didn't really sit well with Liddell, who wanted to punish him for being disrespectful. Ortiz was on a 5-fight winning streak at that time and was more confident than the first time around. He also had some good success in the fight, securing a takedown and landing some good shots on the feet. But Liddell was the better fighter throughout. The champion put a bad beating on his arch-rival in the first and second rounds, before sealing the deal in the third round by a slightly controversial stoppage. The way things were going, however, the controversial stoppage wouldn't have mattered much because Liddell always looked like he was going to win sooner or later. It was a career-changing fight for both nonetheless, as they suffered one loss after another. Liddell had it worse, as he lost 6 out of his next 7 fights after beating Ortiz in the rematch. His only victory came against Wanderlei Silva at UFC 79 in 2007. Liddell vs. Silva was one fight that fans had wanted for a longer time, and although it came a little late in their careers, it was better late than never. The fight was non-stop action from start to finish, as both MMA legends traded heavy leather and knocked down and busted each other up in a Fight of the Year contender. By the end of the fight, both men were bruised and battered, but the standing ovation they received from the crowd at the Mandalay Bay made their efforts worthwhile. Liddell won the fight by unanimous decision and had a smile plastered across his face well into the night. That was the last time we saw the legend get his hand raised on the biggest stages of them all. Despite the many losses in the twilight of his career, Liddell's legacy cannot be debated. He's one of the greatest fighters to ever do it. Yes, but what makes his legacy bigger than some of the other fighters is the fact that he made people fall in love with the sport. He was the UFC's original ass-kicking machine. Is Chuck the Iceman Liddell the greatest knockout artist in UFC history? Give us your thoughts in the comments section below. If you liked our video, please subscribe to our channel and turn on the notifications so you get notified the next time we upload one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.